So over the past week, we've seen that Liverpool have decided that they're going to keep Arne Slot as long as Liverpool qualify for the Champions League, which at this point looks very, very likely. And I don't know, as a Liverpool fan, I'm starting to think to myself, like, can this actually be the right choice? I mean, we've seen Liverpool be really, really poor this season. The number of losses, the performances, the amount of money spent, it just does not look right. And it looks like the Liverpool players are not getting things right under Arne Slot. And this started last season. However, in this video, I want to talk about the reasons we shouldn't keep him and also the reasons why I think we could also think to ourselves like maybe he does deserve another chance. But full transparency, I'm not fully on the side of us keeping him. I think it will be a big mistake if things go wrong next season because we will end up regretting it. But let me start with talking about why I think he should leave. First and foremost, we are at a historic low. 17 losses this season. That is the most number of losses Liverpool have had in over 10 years. That is definitely not something we should be talking about, especially after we won the league last season and won it fairly well. Also, when you think about it, when you have a coach who has just won the league in his first season, now I think it's going to be very, very big of a task to win it the next season. But it's very different if you're not even close to winning it the next season. Exit the Carabao Cup very early, embarrassed on your way out of the FA Cup, and also being embarrassed again in the Champions League by the same opponents that you want to emulate. I think it's just extremely crazy how Liverpool have lost 17 matches this season. 17. Mind you, throughout last season, Liverpool had about 6 to 8 losses. I mean, most of them came when when things were not important anymore. 4 losses in the Premier League. Only 2 of them came before the league was done. 2 losses in the Champions League. 1 against PSG and 1 against PSV when things didn't matter. And then 1 against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup final and Plymouth in the FA Cup. So those were the only losses. See how easy it is for me to remember them. But this season, we've had a total of 17 losses. So when you think about it, you can't spend so much money and expect something to go better this season and somehow have more than double the number of losses you had last season. That's my first point. And as I spoke about, £450 million spent. Now we have to look at it and say that does not make any sense for how much Liverpool have regressed this season. When you think about it, like, it should be a good investment to spend over £450 million. Now, to be fair, there's also the point about the team also losing a number of players like Trent. We also know that, Trent was not adequately replaced, and it's very difficult to replace a player like Trent Alexander-Arnold. Also, on the left wing, we know that Luis Diaz leaving, and comparing him to what we have right now on the left wing is not the best when you think about how Cody Gakpo plays. Cody Gakpo can be a good footballer on his day, but he's nowhere near as dynamic as Luis Diaz is, and clearly Arne Slot doesn't trust Rio Ngumoha enough just yet. So I think a number of players have left Liverpool and we haven't adequately replaced them. So I still wonder, like, whose fault is that? That's on the board and also the coach, in my opinion, because they must be having conversations about who they want to have and also how they're going to implement them properly. Now, we also have to talk about another thing that I do not like about how Liverpool are played this season. Every single time players go for the international break, you can tell that they are playing football a lot better and they're performing a lot better as well. I'm just going to use two examples as I used in one of my previous videos. We have a player like Florian Wirtz, who whenever he goes to play for Germany, plays so much better than he plays when he plays for Liverpool. At Liverpool, it just doesn't look like he's the signing that we wanted when we signed him for £116 million. But when he plays for Germany, you can tell how good he is. In one of his games in the last international break, he scored 2 goals and got 2 assists. Germany scored 4 goals. So you can tell that he's being utilized perfectly well in the German national team. And when he was at Leverkusen, you could tell how good he was. He was one of the best players in the entire league, in the entire world. But he's come to Liverpool and looked like a shadow of himself and doesn't look as good as he should be. Now the question is, where's the problem? What is actually happening and why is it that he's not playing so well? Maybe you can say that he hasn't fully adapted to the Premier League, and I understand that because not every player is going to come into the league and also play amazingly immediately. So maybe we have to give him the benefit of the doubt for this season. But I still do think that under normal circumstances, a player like Florian Wirtz should have settled in by now. The fact that he goes back to his national team and plays really well, and we also look at what he did at Leverkusen, makes me wonder how bad things must be at Liverpool, that he's not playing at his best. Another player I'm going to use as an example is Mohamed Salah. Salah went to AFCON and scored 4 goals and got 1 assist in about 5 games or 6 appearances in the whole competition. This season, he has just over 10 goals, or just about 10 goals in the league, with over 20 games played. There is definitely something wrong, because if a player can go to AFCON and score this number of goals for his national team and come back to Liverpool, where he was amazing last season and slowed down towards the end of the season, also, mind you, Liverpool did slow down towards the end of last season as well, then something is wrong. He's also had a fallout with the manager as well, so you can just tell that something is off about the way Liverpool are playing under Arne Slot. Now, we also have to talk about the tactical confusion. I've seen Arne Slot throw so many things to the wire. Like, it's almost like he just wants to try different things when everything is failing. And most of these decisions do not make a lot of sense. Now, I'm just going to use 2 of our most recent games as an example. Against Everton last week, this man subbed on 2 players in the 84th minute. And his next substitution was in the 86th minute. So he made 3 substitutions in 2 minutes and in 2 different time spells. I do not understand how that happened. I do not understand why a manager will make a decision like that. Why are you waiting so late in the game to first make your substitutions? Your first set of substitutions were, just in the 74th minute. And then the next 2 came in the 84th minute. And your next one came in the 86th minute. Why didn't you just make all the substitutions at the same time? Those 3. That is just one of the most annoying things I've seen. Also against PSG, when Liverpool were playing at home, we saw him make 4 substitutions in the 79th minute. 4 in 79th minute. That means these 4 players had 11 minutes to make an impact in this game. Let's not talk about the number of times he has removed Konate to put on Chiesa. Let's not talk about how many times he has just made some interesting choices towards the end of the game, putting Chiesa in for like 10 minutes, putting Rio Ngumoha in for like 10 minutes to try and save the game. What happened to making decisions earlier on? Last season, we saw how much better he was when it came to things like this. When there was somebody who was playing a bit off, he will probably take the person off at halftime or latest at the 60th minute. So why wait till the 80th minute or the 75th minute before you're making your choices? These are the things I don't understand. Also, I just have to say that clearly he doesn't trust a lot of players. Like I mentioned just now, Federico Chiesa is getting 0 minutes. Now, to be fair to Chiesa, I have to say that, or to be fair to Slot, I have to say that Chiesa recently has not played very, very great. He hasn't really been the best player or one of the best substitutions we've had. However, at the beginning of the season, whenever he came on, he made a massive impact. And the few games he started, he played extremely well. So why don't you give him more minutes? Somebody who was making literally the most goals and assists for the number of minutes he had on the field was always being benched. Clearly, he does not trust Chiesa, and I'm not sure why he even brought him in. So I don't understand why he doesn't trust Chiesa. And literally since then, every time Chiesa comes onto the field, you can tell that he's not much fit because he doesn't get a lot of minutes. If you get 10 minutes to try and save the game, he's running up and down, but like, how much can you really do in 10 minutes to save the game? There's not a lot, especially when the team that you're playing for is not even in control of the game. So these are the things that make me confused. Also, Rio Ngumoha and Salah, they literally scored against Fulham the weekend before we played PSG in the second leg. And you will not believe what this man did. He benched them against PSG at home. I don't understand. You won a game 2-0, and then you proceed to bench the 2 players who scored for you before the next game. Where is the thinking? What exactly is that decision? Because these 2 players must be feeling confident after literally starting and scoring for you, and in the next game you bench them. There's some things that I just don't understand. And to make matters worse, you can just tell that there's been a lot of fallout with the players, and it seems like a lot of players are willing to leave. For Mohamed Salah, one of the best ever players in the club, to say he's leaving 1 year after signing a contract extension that was for 2 years, and the fact that he's even going for free, it shows that there's a lot that's happened. And also earlier in the season, you saw the interview he had saying that he doesn't have a proper relationship with the manager anymore and things have changed. Clearly, there's something wrong. Also, the fact that he's the head coach and not the manager is exactly another thing you need to see. He is basically not in full control, And there are lots of things that you can see that he must be managing and, dealing with in terms of the people above him. That's why recently I don't fully understand the concept of having a head coach over a manager. I think it's one of the most interesting choices because it means that the people on top of you have more power, which is an interesting thing when you're trying to win games on the field. So clearly there's something off about how he's been managing players. Clearly somebody like Chiesa will not want to be at the club next season. There's no point. He's put in his all for this club and he does not get more than 10 minutes or 15 minutes in a game if he gets any at all. Curtis Jones, one of the scousers in the team, looks like he's going to be on his way out. And that's because he's not getting minutes, he's not being trusted. Andy Robertson also will be leaving the club. Now, I understand that for some of these players like Salah and Robertson, we know that they're not at their best anymore. But I do think that in terms of wanting to build a team and continue with the progress and make a gradual transition to the new team, the fact that these number of players want to leave, that makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. Another player we have to talk about is Harvey Elliott. Harvey Elliott, whenever he came on for Liverpool last season and in different seasons, has been a game changer. But clearly, Slot has no plans for him and told him and even sent him on loan. So these are the things that make me wonder, like, how is your relationship with the players? Are your relationships with the players even good? Because how do we know that your players really want to play for you? How do we know that the players are happy playing for you? And why is it that so many players want to leave the club? Now we're hearing rumors about Alisson probably wanting to go to Juventus. That is not a good thing, especially when 3 core players of your team, 3 of the main leaders of your team are wanting to leave. That makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. Like something is definitely off about what's happening at Liverpool right now. The final thing I want to say about why I think he should leave is the loss of intensity. I see Liverpool play today and I genuinely wonder what is going on with this team. This is not how we knew Liverpool to play. We don't see the players running for the ball all the time. The intensity is a lot lower. It looks like there's no identity of who Liverpool are as a team anymore. And you can just see how some of the games have not been great. It's like I can count on one hand the number of good games, good performances that Liverpool have had. And one thing that makes me a bit annoyed by this is that when we brought Arne Slot into the team, it was basically to have a bit of a continuation from Jurgen Klopp. Now, Klopp is a completely amazing, different kind of person. Like, when you look at his characters or his characteristics or his behavior, his mannerism, you're not going to find another Klopp. That's fine. But on the field, we want to see some of the energy that Klopp brought into the team. And it looks like everything has regressed. It looks like everybody's scared to make decisions. Like everybody's so much calmer. People are passing backwards. People are not trying to penetrate the defense. It makes me feel very uncomfortable because I don't even see the passion from the players anymore. And that makes me very worried because what has happened to this team in the space of 1 year? We started seeing these things for a while. We started to see it towards the end of last season. So these are the things that make me feel like, why are we keeping this man if the performances, not just the results are bad and the performances are also not good? We haven't had many good performances this season. After speaking about all the reasons he should stay, and clearly the board not seeing the same thing that the fans are seeing, why are they possibly wanting him to stay? The first thing is that he won the title last season. Clearly, that is not an easy feat to do. Yes, I think that the reason we won the league last season was because there were a lot of, similarities to the way we used to play before, and there was a bit more control over the game. Now, I'm not trying to say that he completely changed everything, but I think the changes were very minimal. However, my problem, which is now making me even go back to reasons why I think he should leave, is that since then we've seen his own style of play being implemented more into the team, and it doesn't look the same. This Liverpool team does not look as good as it was before, but we also still have to give him credit for winning the Premier League. That is not an easy feat. Let's be real. How many managers come into the league and win in their first season? It is not many managers that have done that, so we have to still give him credit for that. However, I do think that, is that really enough for him to have a bad year, like a really, really poor year after all the success? I'm not sure about that. Now, another thing in his defense is that Liverpool have had a lot of injuries. For instance, now, Isak has been on and off this season. He was not fit when he joined the club, came back to full fitness, got injured, came back again and had a very bad injury with his leg. So he's still trying to come back to full fitness. And that was one of our highest in fact, the highest pay that we got for any player. So you have to also be fair to him and say that we've not had the best team. We've also had Leone out for the whole season. Alisson has been in and out as well. Gomez has been in and out. Bradley's out for the entire season. Endo is not looking like he may play again this season. And Frimpong too has been in and out. So we're not going to pretend that the players have all been fit and he has had the perfect team for him to work with. We also have to look at Ekitike now, who's out of the whole season, for the whole season, the World Cup, and probably the beginning as well, probably the beginning of next season as well. So these are the things that you also have to say, like, it's not looking very good in terms of fitness in general. So I think we also have to be a bit fair to him that he hasn't necessarily had the team he has wanted. And the final reason I'm going to say is that as much as I try to be very, very careful about how I speak about this topic, we cannot pretend that there was not a tragedy last season. We lost Diogo Jota. May his soul continue to rest in peace. But that was one of the most difficult things ever. And when it comes to grief, you cannot really tell how the players, how the staff, how the mood around the club is going to be. Now, I understand that it is not a complete excuse for why Liverpool are playing this way. Don't get it twisted. I do not think that it is the only reason why Liverpool have been this poor this season, because before he passed, Liverpool were not playing great football towards the end of last season. But I do have to say that it is something you must consider. These players are human beings. You don't know how they're dealing with it. Some of these players were very, very close to him. Probably would see him every day. You know, not just in training, maybe they go to their houses or something. So I do think that there's a human element to this thing, and we have to also consider that these players are going through a lot. Yes, it's supposed to not necessarily get easier, but you're starting to adapt to this loss. But at the end of the day, the simple truth is that it is not an easy thing to deal with, and you cannot say how exactly the players are going to deal with this. You cannot even say how Slot himself is dealing with this, because he must have also had a relationship with Jota and also the fans as well. So I do have to say that that's one thing we must consider. But overall, I think the negatives outweigh the positives by a mile, and I just don't see why FSG think this man is the right man to stay. Now, one thing I will say is that I'm a big supporter of Liverpool. So if he stays for next season and he proves me wrong, I will be the first person to say I was wrong for wanting him out. But right now, I don't see many signs of hope. I don't see many positives to look forward to if he's going to be the next manager. Now, the biggest problem I have at the end of the day is if he stays at the job and things don't get better, because that would be an absolute waste of time. We have a manager who is probably going to be ready to take on the job in Xabi Alonso. Now, if Alonso gets the job this summer, he has some time to try and work his thing and try to adapt and make the players adapt to his style of play. What would really, really make me annoyed as a Liverpool fan is if we end up sacking Slot during the season. That would make me very, very livid, because that would be a waste of a few months of the season as well, and it would just not be very good at all. The last thing you want to do is start with Slot and then lose an option that you could have signed this summer if you chose to move on from Slot. And I do think that with the way Liverpool are playing, I think, and like I said, I would be happy to be wrong, because me being wrong would mean that Liverpool are playing good football. But I will be happy to be wrong. But right now, I don't think I'm going to be wrong, and I don't think that Liverpool will play amazing. I really worry about having Slot for next season. It really, really makes me worried. But that's what I think about this one. If you've watched to this point, please let me know what you think about it. The fact that I also forgot to mention that the fact that rival fans want him to stay is enough. If rival fans are saying, oh, we want your coach to stay, you know that there's a problem. You know that they can clearly see that there's a real issue. So these are the things that make me feel like this man has to go. But let me know what you think in the comments if you've gotten this far. Please ensure that you like the video if you've gotten this far as well. It will really do a load of good for this channel. And please subscribe. We're very close to 500 subscribers, and I appreciate if you watching right now could be one of those people who gets us to that milestone. Thank you so much for watching to this point, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.